Aarti Anand is an AI-first CEO focusing on business automation and AI enablement. Aarti helps business owners leverage AI automations to automate the boring and repetitive tasks that we all know so well from our daily work, so that they can actually get more time on their calendar to do the things that make them human. And I'm guessing, we're going to hear from Aarti on this one, add more value to their business. Welcome to the show, Aarti.
Thank you, Neil. Very excited.
This is one of those things, isn't it? Time. I mean, I just kind of did it as a little kind of throwaway comment there, but it's so important, isn't it? In running a business, developing a business, be it a startup or an established one, time is of the essence, in essence, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think it's not just the time, but also where your attention goes. What are you trying to grow in your business? And then if you look at your calendar, does that really justify the effort that's going in growing that piece of the business? Because if the calendar says something else, we're all kidding ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so easy to get kind of caught up, isn't it? That I'm busy, I'm racing around, I'm doing lots of things, therefore I am being productive. And of course, it doesn't always apply that way, does it?
It never does, actually. And I think as anybody who starts a new business, I always say you are the marketer, you are the salesperson, you're also the fulfillment guy or gal. But at some point, you really have to let everything else go, but only hold on to things that bring value and justice to how you're spending your time. As a business owner, you must have an hourly rate. I mean, we value that so much when we are a 9-to-5 employee. Why don't we value that as much when we're running our own business? That's our own baby. And that is your ticket to freedom. I hope that's why you started the business. But somewhere along the way, busy starts to become equal to productive, but it never is. Because anything that you can get accomplished in your zone of genius, somebody else may never be able to do that. And you have to value that. And if you start valuing that and you start looking at everything through that lens, it's hard not to stay focused on what you're actually good at and let everything else go and hire other people who share that dream with you, and then let them do the things that don't bring value or justice to you, how you're spending your time. And then you stay in your zone of genius and you go create bigger problems and then attack them.
When did you first kind of realize this? Because when you hear that and the way that you very eloquently explain it, it is just so obvious, isn't it? And yet so few of us actually get it. When was it for you? Take me back a little bit in terms of when that kind of really came to fruition, I guess, in your working life.
That's a really good question. And I think most people don't tap into that is because they're too scared to create a bigger life. They don't know what life would look like if they're successful. And they are worried they'll have a lot of money. They have false beliefs about having a lot of money, who those people are. They also have limiting beliefs about themselves that they cannot charge high ticket prices. I was in a 9-to-5, but I was making a lot of money. I was in corporate. I didn't leave that job to do a $10 an hour task. I had bigger dreams. I wanted to do a lot of things for my parents, for my kids, for my husband, for my family. So when I was in that high paying corporate job, why wasn't I happy? So money is not the only factor, right? I heard somewhere when a woman turns 40, she stops accepting every BS that comes her way, and she just values her time more than she did before 40. So when I turned 40, I had this realization of, like, where is this going? What are we doing with our life? I'm not going to live forever. I probably have 40 more years left, maybe 50 if I'm lucky. Like, do I want to wake up and do this every day? The answer very clearly was no. I wanted to have full control over how I'm spending my time, who I'm spending it with. And what am I doing with all those working hours, as we call it? So I saw AI, I saw the big wave of opportunity coming in. It was a new age we were going to live in. And I saw this as an opportunity. And I was very young when cloud came out, when mobile came out. I was in a PhD program. I never had that opportunity knocking on my door just like AI did. And I just didn't want to let it go. So I stepped in, I left the job, I started the business. I had no idea what I was going to do, but I had a career of 20 years building kick ass products and taking products to market, leading all of that. I had a lot of experience. I just had to figure out what my unfair advantage was to really tune in everything, right? I think most people, like I said in the beginning, they have limiting beliefs around who they are capable of being. As soon as they dial these two pieces in correctly, I think they can really channel who they can become. And that's what's the beginning of what I'm doing right now. Is it worth my hourly rate? Am I okay letting that go? Am I okay letting that teeny tiny problem go so I can have more time and go create bigger problems with my time? I think it takes a while to get there, but most people resist because of the limiting beliefs that they have about themselves.
It's interesting. I want to come on to the whole kind of thing, the time for money kind of equation, how that might play out with AI. But just before I do that, this thing that you just mentioned there, this unfair advantage, can you give me a little bit more about that? Because that sounds intriguing, because we're all trying to, create great portfolios or good, strong CVs. Where does this unfair advantage come into play?
Mm-hmm. So think about this. Everything on planet Earth is selling you AI right now, right? If you want to sell AI, how are you different than anybody else? I always say every mid-market company, those are the companies I sell to. And I've started selling from small, medium business owners and moved on to mid-market companies. Every mid-market company has the access to same amount of tools for the same just one credit card exchange as a Fortune 500 company. Why are they still not getting the results? It's because there's so much noise about the new AI model, the new AI company, the new AI tools that are coming out every day that people, as part of our DNA, we get distracted by shiny tools. It's easy to change your positioning every 2 weeks because you feel like you're starting from scratch. I'm going to figure this out this time. But it's so hard to find one unique positioning statement and try sticking with that for 90 days and see what happens. Right? So that's the problem I see. Everybody wants to sell AI, but almost nobody is tapping into why am I the best person to sell this product, to sell this service? If AI is available at $20 a month to anybody on the planet, why would anybody go with my 20,000 AI diagnostics versus anybody who wants to run an AI audit for $200? You see the difference? You have to tell a story. Why am I the best person to do this? In my case, I've built software for 15 years. I've worked in mid-market companies for 20 years. I was on the other side of the table. I've seen broken operations. I've seen how decisions get made. I've seen CEOs say, let's circle back next quarter. Now I'm on the other side of the table, having lived through all of those painful moments and never said anything. Now I've become the person who's on the other side of the table. When I sell the diagnostics, my positioning is very clear. I'm not here to sell you AI. I'm here to have a conversation inside your company that nobody wants to have.
And that's an unfair advantage because nobody in the organization is able to do that really, because there's politics, there's hierarchy, there's kind of that risk of, oh, well, it's an unknown. So therefore, if we get it wrong, I'm going to be the one who's the kind of almost the scapegoat for it. It's really difficult. Almost requires that external kind of need to have somebody coming in and actually being able to be the fall guy, as it were, because without that, you're never really going to be able to kind of move the game on, are you, as a business?
Absolutely. And then I always joke about everybody inside the company is trying to protect their job. I'm the only one who doesn't have to protect their job. So I bring in that ruthless, dry energy, which is what they need to hear, because every quarter that they're not making a decision on AI, they know it, but they're too scared to admit that their competitor is going 10x faster, and they're redesigning the way the business is going to look like in 5 years from now, while you're still trying to install a chatbot on the website.
That's the harsh reality, isn't it? Is that, now is that time to establish, as you say, the unfair advantage, but also then, I guess, kind of figure it out, because there is no real playbook. I mean, if we're all being really honest, those of us who are evangelizing AI and how it might enable something really powerful, we don't have a playbook to work from, because this is the first time that humanity's ever been in this situation. So it's both exciting, challenging, and kind of daunting in equal measure, isn't it? Because there is no tangible framework that everyone can say, well, we know this works and this is going to be a weaker option for you. We are kind of making this up as we go.
Absolutely. And I wish more people saw it just the way you described. It's being honest with yourself that we have never seen anything like this. And second, fail. First try, then fail, and fail faster than anybody else. That's a very first principles of anybody who wants to break through, but it applies more so in the age of AI. I made this post on LinkedIn a few months ago, which sort of went viral. Is in the age of cloud, the what shifted was the infrastructure, where you were, how you were providing your service, where it lived. So even from here to a cloud. In the age of mobile, the interface changed, so people didn't go on desktop anymore, they were just on their mobile. So they still had access to the same thing you were selling, just on a different device. In the age of AI, you're living through an age, and you have to remember what you are going through. And you cannot treat it as cloud, you cannot treat it as mobile. What work actually looks like, inherently, that's what's changing. The service you're providing today may be commoditized by AI tomorrow. So the customer may not pay for what they are paying today, because the model is going to be different, right? So I have a framework that I use in the diagnostics. But before I get there, let me talk about you said there's no playbook. And I love that. Very few people, maybe 0.01% people actually look at it that way. There's no playbook, and get comfortable with that idea first. Once you're in your chair, you accept the fact there's no playbook. Then the next reality you have to accept is you are running a company in 2026 on a playbook that was designed for a company in 2016. You cannot do that anymore, right? If once you accept that idea, now the next question is, you need to go, it's very spiritual. It's not on the outside, it's always in the inside. That's where the change starts. You don't go buy any AI tool. You don't go, if you have a 2 million budget as a company that's doing 20 million or 50 million ARR. And let's say hypothetically you have a 2 million budget. Those are roughly the budgets that come to me when they ask me to design the roadmap. I always tell them, don't spend all of that on buying new shiny software and shiny tools. Take 10% and then run a diagnostics. And what that means is you hire someone and you go look inside your operations. You have them come in, not talk to the leadership team. You have them come talk to the people on the floor, the operators who actually run the spreadsheet between two desktops. This is the CRM. There is another software, but there is a spreadsheet in between that gets an entry before this data goes from here to there. It's never seamless. You have to go on the floor and talk to those people. Once you do that, you'll have a end-to-end map of how one process runs inside your company. And typically when I go run that diagnostics, there are like 25 or 30 of those processes. That's where the work starts. And you have to accept the reality of how the processes run inside your company first. And once you are done with that, then we come in and we score the processes and we tell you, this is a quick win. This is a deep transformation. Nobody should touch it for 12 months. This is a structural optimization, which means maybe talk about that in 6 months once your quick wins are there and you have data. And then you take all those wins and you take to the board, and they would love to give you $5 million for your AI budget. But they can't do that because you haven't proven anything yet, right? After that, that's when the other conversation about buying any software, because guess what? Any demo you see in a conference is a very expensive mistake that's about to happen, because that demo is trained on perfect data. Your data inside your company is nowhere near perfect. So you cannot buy the tool and then hope that it would run on my data. You have to do that analysis first, see what comes out of it, and then you go and get a green signal about buying anything else.
This is interesting because the big thing that's buzzing around in the media at the moment is this concept of hyper-personalization. And a lot of that kind of phrase, when you kind of break that down into what that really means, is often directed towards the customer experience. But actually what we're saying here, and I think you so eloquently put it this way, is that actually the hyper-personalization is also about you as the business decision maker. Might be marketer, might be chief exec. You're hyper-personalizing this whole thing for your business. And so it's kind of starting, like you say, from within, rather than just thinking, oh, well, let's hyper-personalize the customer experience. No, let's actually begin with ourselves and make sure we've got something that's fit for purpose, much lower risk. It actually reflects, and I love that idea about going to the floor first, rather than just the management team who kind of sit there making strategic decisions based on very little reality often, in many cases. So there's a real practicality about this, isn't there?
Yeah. And I think the reason why I never start with leadership, I always start with operators, is because leadership has a vision, they have a perception of how work should happen or how they think happens. But the reality is never what's on the org chart. Reality is far more different, because on a Tuesday morning, when someone comes in and this is not working and that's not working and that's broken, they go in, fix everything else, and it becomes a norm. And they think, oh, I have just been doing this for 5 years now and nobody knows about it, but I just thought that's how we operate. But then you cannot just install AI on a soap. It's like a dispenser on a soap. It's never going to work. So that's the idea. It's the foundation is broken. There's nothing to scale. What are we trying to do by putting AI on top of it?
So when you use the phrase AI first, it actually isn't AI first at all, is it? But the way we're doing this, it's kind of process first. It's kind of understanding first. It's kind of human communication first, AI second. I don't hear anybody talking AI second kind of frameworks at all. But this is kind of the reality, isn't it, to get this right?
So you're actually onto something really interesting here, Neil. AI first makes sense, but I think we use it in a very sensational way, not a very sustainable manner. The difference is Everybody is talking about run faster, optimize more, reduce the headcount. And I have a framework that I use in my diagnostics, and I call it 70-30. So the previous framework I mentioned is 10-90. You take 10% of your budget, and then you run the diagnostics, and everything that came out of it is going to tell you how and where you spend the rest of the 90% budget. So every dollar works harder. Once we're in that 90%, how are we spending that budget? And I divide that as 70-30. You need to optimize how you operate today, but only focus on 70%. And the reason why I say that is, how are you running your current processes today? If you optimize that, if I go inside a company that's doing, say, 30, 50 million, I can easily find one process, at least one. If we fix that as AI first or AI native, we'll easily save them $500,000 a year with one process, right? That'll get them the cash for the runway that they're trying to create. And that's a good thing. But you don't spend all of your budget on it. You focus 70% there. That's going to get you cash. That's going to get you quick wins. That's going to get you data. And your engine is going to start to work. And the board is going to be in your favor. They're going to see what you're trying to achieve. They're going to believe what you're saying because you have data to back it up. But you cannot just focus on that. You have to take the rest of the 30% and invest in what the company/business actually looks like in 5 years from now. We can't keep running the process the same way. Even AI first, the process may not exist 5 years from now. So some of them are prime candidates for run, which means optimize them. Some of them are prime candidates for reinvent, meaning restructure the process in the first place. And that process may exist, may not exist. It may get 90% makeover. That's the 30% of the reinvent. And those wins cannot come within 12 months. They take time. So 70%, we bring them cash by optimizing how they are operating today. But then 30%, we make them focus on, sit down on the ground and really think about, what business am I running 5 years from now? And that's where 30% of the focus of the capital of the budget, however you want to call it, that's where it needs to go. So in that sense, yes, it's process first, but not all of it. Some of them has to be AI first, but people use it in a very sensational way because it gets, eyebrows raised, but I like to use it in a sustainable manner.
So just so I'm clear, Aarti, then, so and it might be that you say, well, that's what I'm describing, but I just want to kind of be really clear in my head. So the use of AI in automating processes and getting more effectiveness, I guess, kind of falls on one of two sides. One is you can get return on investment, ROI, from reducing cost, or you can get return on investment from increasing opportunities and growth. So actual more sales, in effect, more revenue. So both give you ROI. Do both of those approaches, because most people are thinking cost saving, aren't they, here at this stage, rather than, oh, I can use AI to grow my business. They're thinking I can use AI to reduce my costs. Do both of those, I guess if we call them strategies, do they fit in the model that you're talking about? Because it isn't the same thing, is it? I'm talking about something slightly different to what you've described.
It is. I think we only look at the ROI, but we're not looking at the other axis. We're not looking at the effort. Something could be low effort. So when I draw the quadrants, so I draw the axis, effort goes from bottom to top, and then ROI goes from here to here, right? So anything that's low effort, low ROI, should you be touching it in the first place, right? But anything that's high effort but high ROI, that's deep transformation. That's not for today. Anything that's low effort, high ROI, that's your 90 days plan. So people look at the ROI because it gives them something so tangible that they can keep close to their chest. I am gonna do this. Look at the ROI. I have 1000%. My question is, when I talk to companies and I talk to their teams, I see this as a high ROI opportunity. How many teams does this decision touch? How many tools does this decision touch? How many humans touch this before the process is complete? And the human handoff, if it's not optional, it's mandatory. We all know those use cases. I can't I can't put that in the 90 days plan because I'm giving you a very high effort and it's going to take you months to accomplish it, or a lot of other factors. When we do the scoring in week 2, we look at like 10, 15 different metrics, and that's how one score that comes on the other side, it gives me a very clear idea on where on those 4 quadrants do I put that opportunity. So it's a little bit more complicated than what we are doing right now, but I always think people completely ignore the level of effort it's going to take to make that process AI first. So ROI high and effort low, that's your first 90 days opportunity. But if its effort is also high, then don't touch it. I'll have to see what the other metrics are to be able to place it in 6 or 12 months roadmap or even later.
So I'm guessing if somebody was looking to build a case for their business, maybe they're not the decision maker, they're not somebody who can say, oh, well, I'll commission Aarti to come in and kind of talk to us, etc. But they want to influence that. They might be passionate about, the concept of AI and how it might enable the business, but they're not at a level maybe of seniority that can actually make that decision. What would be the key kind of messages that they would sell then internally? Because clearly that whole point about, maximum ROI for as little effort or risk as possible, I'm guessing that would be the best kind of starting point to have those internal conversations.
I love that question. You know why? Because these people that you just described, they often become internal champions. And I have this 2-part rule that I use in my every diagnostic I run. Every AI project that I approve once I leave the company and we're off the charts and they are responsible for running it, every project needs a champion and an owner. Champion are the people who are going to get everybody excited. They're going to make sure they rally people. But champions also get busy with other things in the next quarter. That's why we place an owner, one single owner, not a team. It's one throat to choke for that particular project that we leave behind. The owner's job is, anybody has a question on the ROI, how are we doing? What is the adoption rate? How many dollars saved? What is the current state? Is it thriving? Is it time to kill the project? That owner is responsible for all those questions. The beauty is, when I get hired, most of the time, there has been someone on LinkedIn who saw my content and they have been struggling on how to get their C-suite leaders to adopt. And they see the content and it deeply resonates because every piece of my content has my ICP's 11 p.m. thought. They know they're thinking about it without really knowing that that's what they're thinking about and why it's happening and what to do about it. So those people, VP of people, VP of sales, VP of revenue, they see my content and they take it inside their company and they book a call, and I have a sales call with them. They take it and then they go have leadership approve the budget so they can run the diagnostics. This is good because, again, some of these people are the operators that are on the floor. They're frustrated. They live it every day. They see AI as the vehicle to the success that they are looking at, but C suite is too busy, or they just don't have all the answers, or they are hearing CEO, they are hearing CFO's opinion, they're also hearing COO's opinion. Who is right? There's no unique voice. There's no one decision on the table. There are 6 decisions on the table, and there's no number attached to any of them. That's why all this happens. So these people, sometimes when they see my content, they take it internally and they help us sell. And then once we run the diagnostic, one of those people becomes the internal champion, one of them becomes the owner, and there's happy ending in most of the cases.
I'm sure there is, because this process, the frameworks, all the kind of concepts that you're bringing to play here, I mean, it feels so commercially sensitive at the same time as being very human centric. It is all about communication, isn't it? I mean, literally everything you've described so far, Aarti, is not about the tech. The tech just slots in at the last minute. It is all about human to human conversation and communication, isn't it? Which is really powerful. Are there any kind of situations from all the conversations that you're having, any situations or processes or departments where this stuff just isn't working right now?
That's a good question. I think from me doing it in the last 3 years, I honestly think where it's not working is probably 2 or 3. I'm going to walk you through them. I think the inherent culture of the company, where tools, shiny objects, people have still not gotten over them. I think that's one. If that's how the conversation starts and nobody wants to hear, you need to look at the operations, that sort of the conversation dies there. And I can't help them. I always say I can only help people who are swimming towards me. Like, you have to be problem aware, and you also have to be at least to some degree solution aware. And then my job is to get on a sales call with you and just convince that I'm the best person to do this job because I've done this and I have the case studies and I bring all my frameworks with me, which have worked for the last 3 years. But if people are not, at least to some degree, solution aware, it's just very hard to talk to them. Second, I think people who are so tech savvy, they are almost too smart that they are in their own way. And I say that with a lot of love because I was one of those people. When I wanted to take products to market, I could sit and talk about 50 cool features that my product had that nobody cared about, because I never understood why I'm doing the thing in the first place. And if you start with the end in mind and you reverse engineer from there, it's hard not to see what path could get you there. I would say probably these two. Those, when I get on sales calls and I see those two things, I know it's hard to sell to them, but I'm also patient because I know some leaders, some operators just need more time and need to consume how I talk, what I talk about for probably longer period of time before they come back.
So let's assume we're talking now to somebody listening to this or watching this who says, well, I'm not that person. Yeah, I'm over all of that. I'm up for this and I'm really doing it. And I love this idea of kind of working with Aarti, kind of doing the process mapping, getting really deep into some of the systems that we've got here, identifying where the opportunities are. I want a balance between cost saving, but also growth. I see there's a growth opportunity wrapped into this. So I guess probably your perfect client, isn't it, really, by the sounds of that? What are they going to be doing then with this additional time? And when we started with time, I want to kind of loop right the way back round again. If we're doing this process automation, we've got some lovely AI enablement, doing all this wonderful stuff. Now I've got time. What are we going to be using our time for, in your opinion?
That's a lovely question. And I'm really passionate about this, the whole concept of now as a leader, you have let go of all the teeny tiny things you were doing when you started your business, and now you've scaled to maybe 1 million, 5 million, 10 million. You're letting go of all the things that a machine could do better and faster than you. First, that's a great place to be. And second, 10 years ago, that would have cost you several hundred thousands of dollars to get to that point. Today, it's probably 10% of the cost, if not less, right? As a leader of the business, I think you have one job, is to see 10 years ahead of everybody else in the company. That's your only job. And anything that gets in that way, you have to let it go. And you have to figure out, how am I going to be the better CEO, the better leader for my team, for my company? So start there. Second, I think anybody who's running a business in 2026, if they still want to be in business in 2030, they really have to spend most of their time thinking about who are we going to be in 5 years from now. That's one. Second, most of the people are doing that in silos. They go on YouTube, they watch some demos. Demos are not production. Let's just be clear on that, right? They are looking at news where people are talking about sensational things, which are, again, true to some extent, but not really true to the level of granularity that you want. My favorite way of doing this is you create pods, not one, different types of pods. There are people who are peers who are at the same level as you are. You need to be talking to them on weekly basis. What are you doing that's working for you? Why haven't I thought of it? That's one. There is another pod where people are sort of your mentors. They are 3, 4, 5 years ahead of you. How are they thinking about it? And those are the people that are going to leave the trail behind for you, that if you trust them enough and they're good leaders, they'll leave the trail and you can follow it. We can also use, how does that decision that you made in pharma apply to my business, which is construction? And you try to connect the dots. And third would be, you look at the world-class leaders, people who are doing 100 millions a year, 200 millions a year, 1 billion a year. How are they thinking about this opportunity? Why aren't you following them? Why aren't you consuming more of their content? Because they are going to build 10 times empire in 2 years that would have taken someone 20 years to do. If you can get the level of success they are getting, even 5% of that, you're going to be ahead of 99.9% of the people. Because guess what? Everybody is so distracted by chasing the next anthropic model, while you are obsessed with solving the biggest bottleneck in your company, which is going to take you from 10 to 20 in the next 2 years. So people are, again, they're not looking at sustainable ways of achieving something. They're looking for sensational, but just like N8N was popular last year, and Claude Code is that cool kid right now, who knows what we'll see in 2027. Any workflow or any template you created in 2025, N810, if you're still running it and you're not doing it in Claude Code, what are you doing? And that's why I never lead with tools, is because my recommendation is going to be obsolete in 2 months from now. What am I going to chase? Right. And tools, software, a hammer, an axe is useless if you don't know what problem you're trying to solve. So I always start on this side of the table, because that's what gets my clients the results faster. And I also have them stay in their zone of genius, because tools, the system architecture, the frameworks, the playbooks, the AI models, that's an easy job for me, and AI will probably do that better than me. But they know their business better than I can. And when you put that expertise and my frameworks on the same side of the table, that's when we start to win.
So if anybody listening or watching this wants to connect with Aarti Anand's zone of genius, I love that phrase, how do they get in contact with you?
Absolutely. So we're actually on all socials right now. But if you connect with me on IG or LinkedIn and you tell me that you came from Neil's podcast, I'll send you a tool that can help you run a mini audit for your own business without me being in the room. And it will tell you how much are you leaving on the table, what is the percentage that goes to run, how much reinvention can happen in your business, all that good stuff. And it's free. So if you connect and send me a DM that you came from Neil's podcast, I would love to share that tool with you.
Aarti Anand, this has been an absolutely fascinating conversation. There are some podcast episodes that I do, and I just think I'm left with so many ideas and things that I need to kind of be thinking about myself. And this is one of those very conversations. So Aarti, thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. I'm so grateful we got to connect, and I'm sure we'll do more in the future. So thank you for having me.